Don't mind me, I'm just getting ready for this most likely goofy speech that we're about to hear in the next several minutes or so. Oh, whenever he wants to start, they say, "Oh, the speech is coming at 10, it's coming at 10." And then it still takes another 20 minutes for him to get over there. Let me look. Yeah, still nothing. It's really ridiculous. All this modern technology and people can't show up on time for things.
CBS News special report. I'm Nora O'Donnell in El Paso, Texas. President Trump is about to address the nation in the wake of two deadly mass shootings just 13 hours apart, including one right here in El Paso and another in Dayton, Ohio. 29 people were killed in the attacks and more than 50 people were hurt. Now, this morning on Twitter, the president called for change. He tweeted, quote, "We cannot let those killed in El Paso, Texas and Dayton, Ohio die in vain. Republicans and Democrats must come together."
It's just a spoiler warning. Not that anyone can figure this out. There will be no change. Um, you actually had the Senate Minority Leader Schumer, who I'm not a fan of at all, come out and mention, "Hey, we should pass the gun bill that we had in the House, the one that got votes from Republicans, and we should bring that to the Senate." And presently, we're not exactly seeing any progress on that. So let's go back to this. Oh, they're still talking. It's more commentary. Um, Speaking of commentary, Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky announced that he was going to be limiting his activities for the remainder of the month because of his taking out of a lung as a result of an injury he sustained when he was assaulted over a year ago. And this is something that's been certified. It's been proven that he was, manhandled by one of his neighbors. If you look at the comment section and the things that people have written about him, I almost, we get told so much about how, oh, Americans are good and they're nice and whatever, but I mean, you've got some people saying, "Too bad they didn't take out your life." Just oh my god, man. I guess I'm not a fan of any of these people, but there's a serious problem when you conflate elections and parties with wanting life or death. Oh, where's this dumb thing? It still hasn't started. How aggravating. It's really obnoxious. I actually was kind of worried I was starting a little too late for this to begin. I was like, oh, I'm gonna start at 6:50 or 6:40, and I'll just start right when they start because a lot of the commentary they're giving isn't really that interesting to me. But yeah, on Twitter, they're lighting both McConnell and Rand up simultaneously. I mean, I've seen people who are floating around a conspiracy theory that McConnell faked his injury of him falling over at his house or whatever to get out of bringing that bill up for a vote in the Senate, which theoretically, if he gets better from this fake injury, he would have to do anyway. So what exactly is he trying to accomplish by delaying it? That's what I'm saying, man. People just, I think what happens is we get in front of these keyboards, we just type all kind of stuff that you know 20, 30 years ago you could just leave in your head and nobody would know how ridiculous it was. But social media allows people to just say all kind of strange things that I think if people reasonably conclude about, they'll go, yeah, that doesn't make too much sense to me either. I like how he has the picture of Washington in the background. they have the same social policy. It's why you see no growth or progress in the U.S. I'm gonna try to put this other one on. Man, they are ridiculous. Also, I should mention that I'm kind of one of the reasons I'm sort of hoping that this is over soon is because I'm trying to, I guess, go to sleep right after this. Really tired, which is why I'm not exactly trying. I'm still attempting to speak and do all of my usual traits, but it's not as refined as the usual stuff. And I have never seen this person before. Good sport. But if he's saying, hey, it's I guess not beholden to me to say hi back. Yeah, Twitter is just continuing to show itself as that little cesspool garbage center that I mentioned before. Like when you have a website where people just go there to type nasty stuff. I mean, it literally is like if you took the worst of the YouTube comment section and just put a magnifying glass under it. Can you get this damn speech? Oh, I'm gonna end up having to fall asleep before he starts. And like I said, man, a lot of people are sitting over here trying to make it seem as if they're some big, caring and concerned individuals. But like, when you just think rationally, you say to yourself, "Well, wait a second. If we have places that don't have any security, and we have billions of dollars we use in military funding and foreign aid, theoretically, we could use some of that funding to increase the security of these public institutions, and therefore we wouldn't have to, as Republicans will claim, restrict the gun rights of anyone. But see, they won't even think of doing something like that because the people who are getting blown to pieces, and people get angry when I say this, even though I'm saying it from their perspective as opposed to my own, the people that are getting destroyed and, smashed up by all this weaponry are considered expendable. Like I said, when I went to that Sanders event 2 weeks ago, they had everybody stand in this kind of structured way where they would scan you to see if you had any kind of metal or something that was not plastic or whatever on you. And they did that because we were going in front of what is considered to be an important person who deserves to be protected. Okay, this crap is starting. Let me turn this on.
Over the finish line would be almost impossible. In fact, you don't see much of an effort on the part of Republicans to even try to push comprehensive immigration reform anymore because the politics is so intransigent.
All right, Nancy, let's listen now to the president, joined by the vice president from the diplomatic room.
My fellow Americans, this morning, our nation is overcome with shock, horror, and sorrow. This weekend, more than 80 people were killed or wounded in two evil attacks. On Saturday morning in El Paso, Texas, a wicked man went to a Walmart store where families were shopping with their loved ones. He shot and murdered 20 people and injured 26 others, including precious little children. Then, in the early hours of Sunday morning, Dayton, Ohio, another twisted monster opened fire on a crowded downtown street. He murdered 9 people, including his own sister, and injured 27 others. The First Lady and I join all Americans in praying and grieving for the victims, their families, and the survivors. We will stand by their side forever. We will never forget. These barbaric slaughters are an assault upon our communities, an attack upon our nation, and a crime against all of humanity. We are outraged and sickened by this monstrous evil, the cruelty, the hatred, the malice, the bloodshed, and the terror. Our hearts are shattered for every family whose parents, children, husbands, and wives were.
Let me turn them off for a moment. Mark says mass shootings are not going to stop until we as a people start caring and being genuine to one another. I can't stress this enough. It's not rocket science math. Like I said, it's not happening to people who are deemed to be a big deal, so they're not going to take it seriously until that, in my position.
Personnel who responded to these atrocities with the extraordinary grace and courage of American heroes. I have spoken with Texas Governor Greg Abbott and Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, as well as Mayor DeMargo of El Paso, Texas, and Mayor Nan Whaley of Dayton, Ohio, to express our profound sadness and unfailing support. Today, we also send the condolences of our nation to President Obrador of Mexico and all the people of Mexico for the loss of their citizens in the El Paso shooting.
Oh yeah, I was going to say that this particular part wasn't reported that much, and I didn't even talk about it yesterday because I forgot. Apparently, Mexico is trying to sue the U.S. for the murders of Mexican civilians in that shooting. I just thought that was interesting that he's like, oh, thoughts, because maybe he hasn't heard about it, given how much coverage has been given to the other facets of both of these cases. Oh, Mark wrote, if there is no compassion for one another or love, but instead being ridiculed and hated on constantly, what do people expect to happen? Yeah, it's a divisive, divided society where the only acknowledgments you get are negative connotations, and then you get shocked when everybody hates each other and is willing to put a bullet in someone's head to make a point about an issue. Let's continue.
Internet has provided a dangerous avenue to radicalize, disturb minds, and perform demented acts. We must shine light on the dark recesses of the internet and stop mass murders before they start. The internet, likewise, is used for human trafficking, illegal drug.
Oh, I did that because I am a dark resource.
The perils of the internet and social media cannot be ignored, and they will not be ignored. In the 2 decades since Columbine, our nation has watched with rising horror and dread as one mass shooting has followed another, over and over again, decade after decade. We cannot allow ourselves to feel powerless. We can and will stop this evil contagion. In that task, we must honor the sacred memory of those we have lost by acting as one people. Open wounds cannot heal if we are divided. We must seek real bipartisan solutions. We have to do that in a bipartisan manner that will truly make America safer and better for all. First, we must do a better job of identifying and acting on early warning signs. I am directing the Department of Justice to work in partisan partnership with local, state, and federal agencies, as well as social media companies, to develop tools that can detect mass shooters before they strike. As an example, the monster in the Parkland High School in Florida had many red flags against him, and yet nobody took decisive action. Nobody did anything. Why not? Second, we must stop the glorification of violence in our society. This includes the gruesome and grisly video games that are now commonplace. It is too easy today for trouble.
God damn it, man. They always want to blame. Look, I don't care if it's a Republican, a Democrat. I've seen members of both parties try to blame video games and other virtual reality type of things for this. It's like you guys have to understand and put into perspective that you have millions of people who play Gears of War, Halo, all kind of stuff relating to that, and they never do anything crazy like go and kill a bunch of people with a firearm. So because the overwhelming majority of people who play those don't do this type of thing, it feels stupid whenever someone uses that for their little political agenda.
Trigger, not the gun. Fourth, we must make sure that those judged to pose a grave risk to public safety do not have access to firearms, and that if they do, those firearms can be taken through rapid due process. That is why I have called for red flag laws, also known as extreme risk protection orders. Today, I'm also directing the Department of Justice to propose legislation ensuring that those who commit hate crimes and mass murders face the death penalty, and that this capital punishment be delivered quickly, decisively, and without years of needless delay.
So here we go. One of the issues that people talk about is that oftentimes when we have these kind of incidents happen, where there's a shooting, some kind of event that no one theoretically could have seen coming, a lot of times instead of trying to do a bipartisan thing of addressing the issue, you get a doubling down on someone's agenda. So, for example, and actually this is what I'm talking about, the Justice Department announced not even 3 weeks ago that it was going to resume the death penalty for the first time in over 20 years. And this was met by condemnation by loads of people that are anti-death penalty, because we've had cases where the wrong person is executed for a crime they didn't commit. Just people were not a fan of this, right? But you hear him say, "Oh, I'm gonna have my Justice Department propose legislation that will make it to where the death penalty is carried out quicker and mandated for anyone that commits this violence." Yeah, but this is part of that same tougher on crime thing that your department was already doing. So what? How exactly is this a reaction to whatever? Stupid, man. Mark says agreed. I hate when they link violent video games to mass shootings. It's so stupid. Well, they can't look at it objectively and say, if we have millions of people playing these games, maybe it's a coincidence that these people, who do these violent things happen to also play these same games, as opposed to it being the reason. And so Dirk, oh, the speech is over. Oh, it just ended.
America, thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm glad that nonsense is finished. That was a little too aggravating for my taste. Okay, so what did we learn? He wants to develop programs that will find early warning signs of those who are being radicalized online, and use the death penalty that he was already going to use because his Justice Department announced their intent to do it before any of these shootings took place. He's basically saying to Barr, "Hey, I'm gonna give you something else to do." Dirk says, "America thanks you for nothing." Yeah, I really don't understand the what it like. I hate being right. I hate thinking that nothing will change or nothing of any actual significance will happen. And this is literally it. I was mentioning before that with the older Bush, you had the temporary banning of assault weapons, you had the losing of the NRA endorsement for that action. There's just stuff that the politician who was in this position, 20 plus years ago, um, decided to do something that was not of their intent, but rather was the direct result of unforeseen events during their tenure. with this, it's literally, we're just going to write out these ideas. And if it doesn't go the way we want, we're going to stick to it. And we're also going to try and find a way to cushion it around things that are not really related. Like, we've been over the fact that these harsher sentences for convicts or people that have done violent things, they don't actually change what these people do. See, when people get up and they say, "I want to change the criminal justice system," if they're talking about nonviolent offenders, they're talking about people who went to prison over smoking a joint, child support, something that a lot of reasonable people would say doesn't make someone a menace to society. When you talk about making harsher penalties for people who are, in this case, a mass murderer or again inflicting some horrible violent crime, it defeats the purpose because the person is not trying to get out. They're not. They've done something that is so horrendous that to try and scare them with the death penalty seems kind of pointless, given the fact that they, in a lot of cases, go into these mass shooting scenarios expecting to die. Think of how many of them have not come out of those alive. They know what they're doing, and they're not. They've shown themselves to not be afraid of death. So I think that part of his strategy. I can't say that much about the other one because I'm not entirely sure of it, but that part is going to fail because it's literally, I'm going to try and scare you with something you already are not scared of, which is why you did what you did in the first place. And before anybody comes in and says, "Oh, you just wanted him to announce some new gun laws," I said, no, my proposal, and the one I've had for multiple different shootings, was that if they want to, lick off the NRA forever, they can at the very least make public venues have higher forms of security, like walkthrough that determine whether you're holding a firearm or something, stuff like that. Very basic acknowledgments of what's happened over and over, where you have these places that do not have the proper protection for their citizens, and then they get blown to pieces. Dirk says assault weapons ban for at least a day. Two, head fake, not a word, and mental health care for everyone free of charge. Never going to hear this. Yeah, well, look, Dirk, my ultimate thing would just be to ban assault weapons and universal background checks. I don't understand why people need AR-15s or bazookas or whatever. But we're not. I'm saying that due to the fact that we have a right wing president, it's not likely to occur, at least during his tenure. You know, again, we go back to the fact that the House passed a background check bill. It was in February, March, and the Senate will probably never take it up. Well, they won't even read the damn thing. They just let it sit there. But that doesn't get me that mad because I know the way Republicans are with firearms. They don't bend on anything. And I think maybe the only few ones I've seen consistently kind of try to play both sides and actually seem kind of open minded are like what's his name, Pat Toomey, because I know him and Manchin had some gun control bill, and Collins, the one from Maine. Other than that, you could have one of these shootings every 2 hours. They would just not fold on anything. In most cases, this would encourage them to do suicide then, and the government get a hold of them. Okay, Bro Vulture says, yeah, it doesn't make sense to create laws punishing shooters since they off themselves anyways. Well, that's my point, that they're like, if anyone's caught, they're this is not like, who does this, right? Who shoots up some place with a bunch of different people and expects to, like, be in well condition afterward? That's why these people off themselves during the event, or they have the officers do it right after. And usually, the suicide by cop, where they force the officers to retaliate against them because they just prove themselves to be such a public health risk. in the moment of the incident. Like I said, people they don't want to address anything for what it is. It's just more of the same rehashed nonsense. Like when he's talking about having his departments try to figure out how to catch these radicalized people ahead of time. That deserves a lot more explanation, but it still is something that is kind of set a little bit in addressing what's going on with the new death penalty thing for these people. It's like you really sat back and thought that would change something. Mark says people don't care why these mass shootings happen. They simply blame the mass shooter. They need to find out the events that lead to the tragedy. I mean, look at the Bianca thing, man. I left a comment on this guy's video where I said, hey, we have a society that teaches men to be obsessed with chicks and to not uh, go out and be for themselves and accept the fact that none of these frauds are doing anything that would remotely require you to like have some kind of singular focus on them. And the guy who put the video up liked my comment along with somebody else, but then another person comes and goes, society had nothing to do with it. If that person thought that, then there's something wrong with them. I was like, yeah, but why do they think that? And it's like if something's truly wrong with them, why do we keep having this? Like, oh my god, they don't. And like I said, I'm not one of these people that usually likes to play the mental probe where you try to get in the minds of people, but they're using mental illness to try and obfuscate from them not wanting to do anything about firearms. And it's really it sucks a lot because when you look at the fact that so many of these people, I mean, you can watch. If I just read the event, right? I say, okay, this person went up into this place, killed 9 people, including his sister. At this that were seemingly he had never met before, other than his sister. You don't even have to get a idea of how he grew up to know that's a crazy person. So that's why the mental stuff really starts to kind of wear out each time because if they're insane enough to do something like this, then what more do we need to know about their background? But again, this goes back to the thing of they're trying to now use psychology to get away with the fact that they won't pass any new laws. Mark says, shaking my head, these people choose not to get it just to piss you off. No, they do that so they can keep delaying and obstructing until we have another incident, which is coming very soon. Jank from TYT actually did a stream on Saturday, and it was right after the Texas when he was like, "The next one will come to wherever you are, and it's going to come over there." And it was really a lot of people are commenting about his foresight because we literally had the Ohio one start coming out maybe 7, 8 hours after that stream. Like he really correctly predicted that happening. So it's really disturbing how many of these things are even good because people are trying to say, "Oh my God, you're so smart." It's like no, it's just a fact that every day we have 3 people get shot somewhere, and this is so common that you don't even hear about it anymore. Dirk says, "We all know nothing will happen. No universal background checks passed." Um, well, like I said, we'd have to get the Senate back, and good luck with that. No one, everybody wants to run for president. Nobody wants to run for any of the congressional seats. Remember that article I told you about where they said that Hickenlooper, O'Rourke, and Bullock should drop out and run for the Senate in their states because it would increase the chances of the Democrats taking back the Senate, and they're all too busy running. They'd rather run for president at 2% than run for senator at like 40 or 50. The egos on these people are just enormous. Or is anyone else? Does anyone else have anything left to say? Okay, Mark says, "Will the mass shootings ever end?" Only if they get ridiculous. Like every day you wake up and there's one that happened where you know 8, 9, 10 people were killed, and you can't even like go to bed at night without hearing about an active shooter being reported somewhere. Literally, when it's every single day and it's in the news every day, you'll start to see a change because people will actually just get sick of it. Like they you walk down the street, you hear about the situation. You go over here, you hear about another one. I mean, there'd be a lot of bloodshed, but things have to get really before change happens. Like, you better watch that language. And yeah, you're right. There, it has to get horrible, worse than it already is. And it's the U.S. is kind of really bad at not having foresight. I mean, we've had to have millions of people die from their health insurance to one single payer. We've had to have people have trillions of dollars in student loan debt to one free school. Just you have to crack through the ground before you can start to go back up. That's just the way the U.S. is. We don't learn our lesson until it's too late, or there's some kind of major repercussion that's taken place. All right, is that everybody? Is Rob Vulture have anything else left to say? I didn't see him over the weekend. Oh, any further comments, questions, concerns, thoughts, theories? No words. All right. Well, all in all, it was a really lame speech. When's the next live show? Mark, it's every Saturday in the evening. Remember, you've never seen a live show that wasn't on Saturday evening. Dirk says if all happens near town halls or politically motivated, then it might change. I still think the best way to actually do this is to just start voting all these people out. And the thing that sucks is that if you're in a state like Alabama or Georgia or Kentucky, you can sit back and let people get blown to pieces, and you're never going to get gone after for it, electorally, of course, because it's so tinted in your favor that you can pretty much get away with being a hot steaming piece of garbage when it comes to your position on this matter, and no one would ever care. I mean, you saw what happened with those Democrats that got mad at Collins for voting for Kavanaugh. It's like, okay, how many people did Kavanaugh kill? How many massacres occurred because he was confirmed to the Supreme Court? None. But then you guys will sit here and vote for people that just let all these shootings happen. Whatever, man. People, their priorities are screwed up. Yeah, thank you for showing up. I appreciate it. Have a good rest of your morning.